without further ado, I'm going to bring our master chart reader, Danny, to do his magic. And again, it was a pleasure meeting you and
Pleasure meeting you.
feeling your magicalness, Natalie. And I'll drop your links again as we wrap up the show. But for
Okay.
now, tag
Perfect.
team.
Thank
The Matrix reader. That's on my last podcast. I think that's what we the Matrix decoder.
you. Ooh, I love it.
Jennifer came up with it. It just sort of came out one day, and I thought it was really cool. It's fun decoding the Matrix. You see it when you read charts for people now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see little aspects that matter a great deal, and they allow you to say the right words. It's got to be incredible.
Yeah, and I didn't start reading charts until they started talking to me, and then I knew I was ready to read charts.
So it took a little while.
Yeah, it was about 4 years before I would read other people's charts.
That's too freaking funny. Guess when I started,
When?
as soon as I realized it was a thing, I
Oh,
started bragging on it. I was like, "This is the thing. This is the thing."
well,
Why, Dan? I don't know.
I will say that I immediately started pulling all of my clients' charts, and I started coaching them based on their strategy and authority.
Right.
But I didn't do full-on chart readings that I charged for
Right.
until they started talking to me.
I got you. No, I totally understand that. So the whole thing was quite amazing, just sort of watching this whole thing unfold. And I know there was this question sort of as we were talking before, but you had this great experience, right? Your heart
Mhm.
opened up. It was like the Grinch, his heart grew 3 sizes that day. Do you remember the
Yeah.
movie?
Yes.
Do you remember identifying with that particular moment deeply?
Yes.
You
Very
must have.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too, by the way. I have a 25 in my chart, vessel of love. So
Oh.
I'm always waiting to accept that shock, in that moment where the heart grows 3 sizes. But it's so this moment, but before that, there was this teenager that had been basically put aside.
Yes.
Put aside, right? And the capacity basically of this, I'm looking at this and I'm like, people who are able to put stuff aside without constantly talking about the trauma of it all usually have this gate 26. So I went to your gate 26 and I start looking. I shouldn't say usually. I don't know if it ends up usually, but it seems to be. Um, and and this capacity to manipulate memory. Have you looked over the lines of your gates? Because I want to go to a couple things. What is it that channels inside of Natalie?
Mm.
And you probably have ideas and know, and between you and I, we'll get it all. And what is
I've
it that
asked what the channel, like who am I channeling when I channel? And the answer that I get, besides that it's none of my business, is universal consciousness is what I channel.
we're all channeling that? That's what
Yeah.
the nine-centered form is. It already is a tuning fork. And
Yes.
I'm a pianist, so I've been playing the piano my whole life. So when you were talking about different instruments, I was like, "Oh, that's brilliant. We love that." That work because it is. You give the different types an instrument too. Who did you say was a guitar player? I'd stepped away for just a second.
It's the heart.
The ego center. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep, of course.
Yeah.
Shredding it up.
Yeah. And the heartstrings.
So what is it that channeled? What is it that awakened? What is it that allowed you to forget? And is it even bad that you forgot? Did you think at the time that you were realizing I put this thing away? Did you have some kind of concern that, oh, I probably shouldn't have buried that? Or
I've missed her.
right,
But she got
yeah,
me in trouble a lot.
which you're supposed to, no, undoubtedly. The farther back
Um,
in time we go, the more correct we are.
yes.
It's like that, yeah. It's a
Yeah, I had to shut it down because of my first marriage was
mm,
not a healthy one for me. And I shut it down during that period of time.
yep. Oopsie, you bumped into the wrong husband, did you?
Yeah, I did. That 3-5, it just gets me.
The unexpected. It's the unexpected. And I
Do.
heard Moana call you a care bear. And I look at your chart, and as soon as I hear other people using keynotes, I looked at the chart and I'm like, because I had forgotten you were unexpected. I was sort of looking at something else, and there's 27 right there. So he took your care. But back to this capacity that woke you up in a moment, right? What have you made it? What aspects have you in your chart could you say that maybe that you would have gone to? for that when you're looking at this, like, what in me is it I can help understand with my vibration that is me? Did you do any
Oh,
of that?
um, I studied the will and the G and that 2551 channel very intently
Mhm.
for quite a long time, trying to understand what the heck it was.
This thing is perfect. It's a you have such harmonies in your body. This thing is constantly being called into action.
Yes.
I mean, you're aware when it's being called because it's
Mhm,
black, but you're not really aware the calling is it's this individual. So the calling is the pulse. What you referred to earlier, I forgot the word you used, but it was that this divine consciousness in the now.
mhm.
I mean, it only happens in a pulse. It happens like creation. It happens. And
Yes.
outside of our will, we can't like will it per se to happen. It happens.
Yes, and I have very much realized that one of the things that I realized is that Ra talks about no choice. And
Helpless and incompetent, I think he says.
oh, so what I realized is that like no choice rubbed me the wrong way.
Me too.
And then I realized what he actually meant by it was that, and this is my own interpretation of it, is that we have no choice as to what our inner authority responds to. We don't have a
Right.
choice on if it responds yes and no to whatever is being presented to us.
Mhm.
But we do have the choice to follow it or not.
Right.
And that's where free will comes in.
And in a nutshell, that sums it all up. And the closer our free will is aligned to our strategy and authority, obviously, then the better we get. That's a cosmic alignment just all by
Yes.
itself. And it
Yes.
takes us out of our transferences and so forth. But so I'm looking at this and I see the channeler in you um is this gate 47 up there. It's not the only thing, but
Mm,
it's the biggest one. It's the gate 47 and then the gate 43. Um, this is the thing. As soon as the channel is broken, meaning 47 is only unconscious, and you really only got one unconscious break in your definition. You're almost all you got two channels. I see that, but of the two channels, it's three of the four gates are conscious and one is unconscious. Whenever that's the case, and you got one unconscious gate amongst multiple definitions, that thing gets all this focus of being the thing that sucks because it's always there, it's always working, but it keeps coming out of a tunnel. And you know the name of 47, it's oppression. But the oppression is this adverse state that comes to realization. So your whole life, by the way, I have the same configuration you do. I have 63, 64, 47, 43. And then
cool.
we have some of the same lines. I have it in the sixth line, the 64, you do too. I have the 47 in the second line, you do too. You and I both have the 43 and no, we don't have that in common, but so I know what this is like. And that's where my one unconscious gate is. It's in the
Mm,
64. And one day I realized, oh, that's why I get so confused because the pressure to be confused comes out of nowhere. The
mm,
life force sustaining pressure that brings me so much joy when I don't care. It you know, it 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 comes out of nowhere, and I experienced that like, a 2-ton heavy thing, a heart attack sometimes. Um, yours is reversed in the 47. Here comes it's not the only place you would channel, but, the 47 oppression let's see, I opened it up here, I was looking through some of the lines. Do you go to the back of the book much?
every once in a while.
Yeah, I live back here.
Oh,
Yeah, you've got 47, excuse me, yeah, I got 47 here. Where is it? Your 47 is in line 2. So ambition is that line 2. And that ambition is this you got it in line 1 as well, don't you? 47? No.
no, I don't have
40
47.
yeah, you got one line 1. 47 line 2 ambition. Yep, it's realizing that to be mentally busy is
Oh, there it
healthy.
is. Okay.
Yeah. It's the ambition and drive to overcome personal oppression. The personal oppression is that it's confusing.
Mm,
that the realization hasn't struck yet. And for you, that's added on to by your gate 43 being defined twice, because that thing is hungry to spit it out.
Yeah.
It's just always, it says, I hear your I know voice as you talk, by the way, as I was listening to you. Um, and it says, I know, I know, I know, I know. And it knows, but it knows it can't spit it out half the time. That's confusing.
Yeah, and that's gotten me incredibly frustrated, and partly, I'm like, it's here. I see it, I smell it, I taste it. It's all here. Like it's not coming out.
You and me both, by the way. Mine is amplified even from that because I'm a manifesting generator, and that's my one bridging gate.
Mhm.
So the whole
Mm.
focus of my life was on like smashing into people to tell them I know, and out would come not I know, except once in a while when I truly did know, had it all
Mhm.
put together. Um, so I just find that amazing. So that ambition is yours exalted 47. Yeah, it is. So it's only this. It's only exaltation. It's this
Okay.
ambition and drive to overcome this personal oppression in order to achieve security. The security is knowing that the oppression leaves. The ambition and drive to overcome is a second line. It's called out of you. So you don't even know that you're necessarily confused at the moment as it relates to the oppression, but it comes out of a tunnel. And so here is the oppression. And what is the oppression designed to do? It's designed to convert into realization that then comes out through your gate of breakthrough, or your gate 17, or even your 56, as a story that knew the stuff and had a ton of details and an opinion about it. I know you
Yeah.
don't have gate 62, but 17's pointing at it. And so
Mhm.
when you see a bunch of details, you love that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. Unless someone asks you to organize them all, and then, you know, maybe you don't love that so much. Is that
I love organizing things.
all the details?
It depends on what it is.
How about when there's a whole ton of them?
So when I do coaching with people, so it kind of depends on the situation, but like when I do coaching with people, they'll come and they'll just like word vomit all the things onto me. Of
Mhm.
like, these are all the things I have going on in my business. I'm like, cool, lay it all out. And then I naturally go through and I'm like, okay, we need to do these things, and we need to do these things, and then do these things. And like I'll organize those in that way. And like I love doing that.
Mm.
I also love putting together furniture. Like
I
IKEA,
I don't blame
love it.
you. Yeah, I don't blame you. It's, to stay mentally active is a healthy thing.
Mhm.
That's what this says, and it's in the second line, so it resonates or harmonizes deeply with your fifth line nature, which is hungry for its influence.
Yes, and I do a lot of research, and there's all like, especially in human design, there's all these different pieces and parts, and everything's like scattered to the wind, it feels like. And so I've developed a system to um, stick it together in different ways.
Does that research sound a little bit like a dedication to patience once you realize you've been patient and you recognize your dedication to it?
Ooh, yes.
Line 2, dedication. Line 1, patience. 43. The reason I wouldn't have even brought up 43 too terribly much, but I'm bringing it up because I look for a lot of things in a chart. You've got a lot of really cool anomalies in your chart.
Oh,
Um, yeah, one of them is you have one first line. Wherever you find one line, go to that because that's where that person puts a lot of time. It's their one investigational foundational line. And for you, it's in order to get to the breakthrough, it's the recognition that the new thing that you're about to say, which is your freak nature, the thing that's
mhm.
coming out that's mutative, right? Individual and new. Um, it can't be established until the resistance to the old stuff is eliminated. For that, you must have patience. So you're
Yeah.
watching, you're always watching and waiting, almost like an opportunist, but that's a studied practice. You're studying people that make you wait. And what is it that they're doing that are making you wait to break through with whatever your unique thing is? Your thing is the study of the people.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what foundationally this is because it's part of the channel of structuring. What would she like to do? She would like to structure the things that heal the people. Ultimately, that's the nine centered form talking, healing the people and being for the people. Another super interesting aspect you have in your design is it looks like you have 5 different incarnation crosses in your design. I don't
Really?
yeah, I don't see this very often, because I go through and try and find the polarities. Everyone's
Okay.
got a couple of polarities. The nodes are always in a polarity. The sun and earth are always in a polarity,
Hmm.
but usually it ends there, or very often it does. But then you have this other polarity that is 60 and 56. So that's the stimulating part of the law. The
Mm.
law is mutated business. I mean, we have to change things to get the law. And so this becomes your law. In other words, when I see these polarities, I read the right angle incarnation into it to help sort of expand more juice about what that really is. So part of the law, and this would be the 56 and the 60 part of it, that would make the being stimulating part as it relates to what is the nine-centered law. Well, it's communion, right? It's yeah, we're going to have to cooperate and get along and do all the various things. The law is very much about morals, right, wrong, and all that stuff. But yours first comes from a sense of breaking through a limitation to get to it, which is what gives you a fantastic, yummy story to tell about it. To stimulate and animate and move your hands around and say a bunch of stuff and use that mental activity in your mind to animate the story and keep it flowing out. So that's a cross that's sitting there. It's not the whole cross. You don't have the rest of it. You would need gate 3 and I forgot what else. But so you don't have the whole 50, 3 and 50. So you don't have those, but it's still, I see the polarity and I apply the cross to it. You have the 4722. So that's rulership. So there's rulership in your way, except the sense making part of rulership, because the 47's there and the 22 has the grace to listen. And then so here you are in a listening business. So you've got this thing, you don't even know you do it until you realize, oh, I'm good. I guess I'm good at this. Right? Is the client starts talking and suddenly you're listening
Hmm.
and you're gathering their intel. And you know plenty of providers that can't keep their mouths shut. You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
Plenty, but suddenly you hop into listening. It's almost like a trance. It's almost like someone can put you there as like a type of tractor beam, you know,
Yeah.
hold hold Natalie in place while they're talking, because you are investigating the thing that's going to bring you the breakthrough. This
Yes.
fifth line in your investigator nature that has the patience to wait and see that breakthrough will come and it'll be in sight soon enough. That's a foundational study that you figured out over time, that you're figuring out over time. And
Yes.
so the grace to listen is the empathy it takes to get to the stuff needed to listen so you can have the breakthrough. In fact, I would be willing to bet that half of your existence is really caught up with these amazing breakthroughs you keep having, because your mind keeps saying, I realize this, I know, I get you, I think
All the time. All the time.
all the time. Have you ever wondered why that mind of, I mean, you've been in design long, so you know why your mind doesn't shut off. Can you
No, it
explain that?
doesn't.
So your mind will never shut off. Hey, Natalie, you think too much. Hey, Natalie, you're stressing over that too much. Hey, Natalie, you're going to get unibrow if you keep doing this for too long. Or things like of that nature. Um, this 43 is so aware that it wants to do the one thing that humanity needs as much as anything else: put it in order, structure it, say it in the energy that is I know, so that it can mutate the other, so that they can know because they didn't know before. And if they know because you told them I know, they're now mutated. They're different.
Hmm.
They now know something. So this is your impact on them. That fifth line general in you that people look to do the thing, and that third line persistence that ultimately you realize the third line isn't about bumping into things as much as it is about figuring out the things that don't work and getting it right ultimately.
Yes.
Yeah, that third line is not this just dreaded pessimist that's doomed to, you will bump into it for the rest of your life. That's not the point. You get better and better at it,
Yeah.
obviously, and the fifth line gets a little paranoid and keeps you out of it more and more, right? That's healthy. And then you take all of that, and then it has a breakthrough, and you've got this open throat that just wants to say the thing. That's healthy for you to want that. What was unhealthy in your teenage years was you went too far with it. And he had a big fat mouth all over the place half the time and didn't know and then felt stupid and then ran away and then probably cried and then all the things we do when we're young that make us want to forget those times a little bit or
Right?
have take question to it or take issue with it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all this breakthrough stuff is just really important. But that becomes so 1, 2, 3 crosses, 4, the cross of the laws, and there was one other. Oh yeah, 51, 57.
Mm.
Penetration. We just came off of that last week when we were reading the the sky, this transits. So and it's part of a definition. So the 51 is the warrior in shock. And guess what? The 51 and the 25 are in harmony, a 5 and a 2.
Okay.
How all of your stuff is in such incredible harmony. Of course you channel. Of course, one day it would be called.
Yeah.
Right?
And it
The
does.
expansion of your heart. Yeah. And you've heard Ross speak long enough. The universal love affair is with ourself.
Hmm.
It's not out there in any kind of way. In fact, out there is technically boring to how much we love our own selves. It's fanciful. I mean, that might be my age showing up a little bit. I'm almost 60, but you
No,
know,
I tell people who are willing to hear this, that I am the most interesting person that I know.
oh, dude, I'm the greatest guy I know. Yeah, this is that heart ego talking. Yeah. How about this one? I love you, but I love me more.
Like,
Yeah.
well,
No, I'm
and
the
people
greatest
like,
person I know.
because
Yeah.
I spend a lot of my time alone, which I love. Like, everybody's at work or school or, and I'm doing my research, I'm writing things, I'm doing all kinds of stuff like that. And I do have coaching and biofield tunings and stuff that I do. But I spend a lot of the time alone because I'm researching and working. And I never, ever feel lonely.
Right.
I don't really
Why
know what
would you?
that feels like.
Well, you normally wouldn't because 64 and 47 are one of the more active life forces. It is
Mm.
constant. You know what the the head center is there to do you remember the keynote of the head center? It's there to translate existence.
Oh,
I mean, that's pretty esoteric, and not to mention that's a pretty big deal. You know, to
yeah.
translate, yeah, translate that into instead of translate existence, just call it it's job to figure out what the hell.
Yeah.
You know, with what? With what, Pop? You know, with it, with all of it, all of it, including why. Why are we here? To
Yeah.
translate our existence. And that's a lot of pressure. And so as it comes down 64 to then to 47, 47 as an awareness center, it's constantly picking up the little film clips of what could have been. It's picking up the pieces and it's taking picture something that you would spin and out along the edges, everything would reorganize differently each time you spun it. Got a bunch
Mm.
of stuff inside, spin it, centrifugal force makes it have it's organized a certain way. And then shake it up, spin it again, does it again, like a magic 8 ball, sort of. That's what this is doing. It's taking thousands of clips of memory, right? Because this is going to be important. So the ajna center is awareness, right? Three
Mhm.
awareness, they all have a frequency, right?
Yeah.
Spleen's in the now, emotional is in the a wave over time. What's the frequency? Do you remember the frequency of the ajna center?
Um, no.
Over all of time.
Oh, is it?
Memory. I got to remember. It's
Oh,
memory.
okay.
I tell you, it's like, oh, honey, that happened when you were 3. You should get over it now. Yep, over all of time. That type of
Mm.
thing. And it's supposed to do that. What it's not supposed to do is torture us because it does that. Right?
Yeah.
So you take 47 and it's unconscious and it shows up out of the blue. It's not up to you. It's up.
Mm.
That's the beautiful thing about what channels. So the channeling prime channeling force in your body, besides the shock and awe motor of ego to the basically into innocence, 25 is 64 with 47 unconscious, and that 47 unconscious because unconscious information shows up like as if it came out of a tunnel. You can't see where it came from. You don't know. And
Yeah.
just there it is. That's confusing. Why is this happening to me? As soon as you let it strike fear, all the awareness centers are laden with their fear. The fear of this one is the fear of futility. Futility, because you know so much, because the ego wants to do all these things, because you've got all these incarnation crosses in you and you're penetrating into the now, and you have one more, six, you have six incarnation crosses going on here, 64, 63. So this is consciousness. Consciousness was always supposed to be awakened in you through the warrior spirit that goes through the oppressive act of allowing all of the universe to pressure it, to translate it into a voice that says, I know, in an open way when recognized, after she bumped into it before she got too paranoid to have to get out of Dodge. Yeah, sorry, I had to add all those in, but
No, that was beautiful.
that's, you were always gonna channel this stuff. 21, the grace to listen. Why am I listening? Why am I in this tractor beam? I don't know, but it is sensitive, and it has want, and it wants to be close, and it wants to be socially significant. It's the design of a social being, and it's open. It's openness, straight up openness. So that's unconscious in you. And that unconsciousness, everywhere there's unconsciousness, is where the mind can't cloud it. The mind can only observe it. That's how you read the red stuff in your body graph. You read it as it's just as present as the black stuff. It is working away just as present as the personality. You can't have it though. It gives it. The personality we get, we can have it, right? I can see it. Got to identify with that. Oh yeah, I get that. And the more you get it, the more you identify with it. It's easy. You could take a quiz and get a B plus or better every time. That's the black stuff. The red stuff, you take that quiz and I mean, multiple choice, you can hope to get a few of them right by luck, and that's it. Right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
what the red stuff does. So out of this openness for 22 that says, and 22, I'm going to find this in one of your lines, I bet. Where's that 22? There it is, second line again. Second line again. You got a lot of second lines. And I'm going to speak to that in a moment too, because that was another thing that stood out. That was one day this heart of yours was going to open up. And I promise you it was a function of your deconditioning. And I promise you it was a function of that vibration of that freaking tuning fork. And it happened now. It didn't come on. It showed up. Is that true?
Yeah.
That's the definition of creation. And what happened? Did the oppressed realizer suddenly realize something?
In me, yes.
Immediately, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you just and the confusion making understander that becomes understanding ultimately through the act of going over and over again. That's why our mind never shuts off. It's a life force that never turns off. It's the primary channel of dreaming. 6447, this channel of abstraction. Out of its unconsciousness suddenly comes this incredible release of the oppressiveness. Have you experienced it as oppressive? The mental pressure, anxiety,
Yeah.
oh, I can't shut it off. Sometimes you'd even shake your head and can't turn it off.
Yeah. For
You
years.
listen to music. Yeah, you listen to music, it goes away. Did you ever try that?
Yeah, there are times where if I need to be working, or if I need to be writing something, or typing stuff up, and I need my mind to shut up, I will put a song on repeat.
Repeat. Yeah.
I'll just repeat I will repeat it for hours sometimes. And because
Yeah.
what happens is it quiets my mind, and then the song fades into the background, and then the real thoughts can come forward, and then I can focus and think.
That's just an amazing thing. Yeah, I would often do the same thing. What it is, it's very much, I forgot what that name of that movie was with Matthew Broderick. It was old, long ago, where they had to turn off Hal or the machine. They had to turn off a machine. And that
Yeah.
general guy was like, I'd piss on a spark plug if I thought it would work. And what did they end up doing it? They gave it a chess game or a checkers game that it can't win to keep it
Oh,
busy. Yeah.
yeah. And
So,
yeah, I'll turn off fans. Like sometimes I will need absolute silence, and sometimes I need so much silence that I'll put noise canceling headphones on.
right.
And the interesting thing that happens to that is so if I go out camping and it's the middle of the night, and I know that I live in Utah. If I go up into the woods, there are bears and mountain lions and moose. And
Coyotes.
like there are big animals out there that are scary.
Right. Right. Right.
And so my brain becomes on hyper fixation alert to listen to every single little sound. So I will put noise canceling headphones on and it will like hyper fixate on any little tiny sound it can. And then I can think.
Oh my god, I love that. I should I should try that one day. I can't whatever's going on inside my ears, as it relates to what I'm bringing in. Don't forget, this stuff is all on the emotional sensing side, this
Mm,
definition 6447. It's not on the logical side, but because you have both 64 and 63, this acts as linkage. They go between each other. The gate
mm,
of doubt is constantly figuring stuff out, and 64 is constantly pressuring the confusion to come to a realization. And you put those two things together, and so when 47 says, I know, it is all experienced, I know. It has a mutative pulse of I know, which is an empowering force, empowerment. And it's got, again, the shared collective doubt function, which comes to an understanding. Doubt is there to be a sometimes pressure that keeps understanding the next new thing, much like a realization. These two
mm.
things, they work symbiotically together. One is very much sensing and abstract, and one is logical and looking forward. And so the cross of consciousness says we're going to have progress looking forward as it relates to what we've learned from the past. And when we can see that clearly as ourselves, we are conscious, manifesting that. We manifest that as our conscious selves. So you've got all of that going on and then you come back to the unconscious gate in 43. You channel through that. Which one is 43 unconscious? Let me see here. Line 2.
Yeah.
That's the one that's dedication. So suddenly you're dedicated to your open heart because you just realized it, because the freak in 43 suddenly had its breakthrough insight. Whether it could explain it or not, it knew. Knowing empowers. Realization is fanciful and it's amazing, but it doesn't really come into work or into play until it knows.
Yeah.
Because again, realization is still being worked with. Oh, I realize this. Oh, I can realize a little bit more. Oh, let me add on to that. But when knowing clicks in, that's one thing. It's knowing. And it's powerful because that's in the individual circuitry. And because of that, it's designed to empower. Um, there's something else with this 43 that it's part of an opposition. When you have 4323, you don't have the 23, but it doesn't matter. It's part of a definition that shows up more in humanity than all the other channels.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you remember that, but it was because there's 3 channels that are in opposition on the wheel. It
I know
means
3420 is one of them.
yep, 3420 got nothing in that stream, but you do have a 40 because 40, 37 in the
Okay, and
tribal
4037 is the other one. Okay.
Yep. So those are the 3. You have gates and 2 of them, but the 43 is the one I'm most looking at right now. And 43.2 says dedication. So unconsciously, as soon as you become dedicated to the moment, the breakthrough becomes predicated on back to unconscious 47. The realizations come out of a tunnel, and the realizations fuel I know and break through. And then in that moment when that happens, suddenly you're channeling your unconscious dedication. What does that look like in a nine-centered being? That's your love. So who doesn't channel their love in a way, right? So, but here with you, it's unconscious, so it's innocent. I mean, it's a recipe for the perfect Hallmark card, your innocent love. It's like, it's what happened when we were teenagers and first held hands and things of this nature, which I'll never forget. Thank God for mind over all of time, you know? I don't want to forget. I love that stuff. But so I see so much focusing on this 47. I see how in a moment you would have come to what the nine-centered form is designed to do. Realize it loves itself. And
Mm,
it's badass. Oh, you got this 5125, this warrior channel of shock and all the gates of the ego defined. And they're all black except for one red thing. So I was curious if you find yourself being called into just leaping into the now. Do you suddenly just do when was the last reckless thing you did? Because it was
oh,
exciting. Because of the excitement.
I do that all the time.
Okay, good, good. Have you figured out you're supposed to?
No, I just find it to be fun because it'll like be a random thing and I'll be like, well, let's try this. Let's go
Right.
this way. Let's make this turn. I don't know.
Well, it's the perfect channel to have if you're gonna be a 3-5 profile. I say all 3-5 profiles will pass a law in the next Congress mandating 51-25 for all 3-5s, you know? Just they can have fun with that. Um, that's too funny. Let's not do that. So what else was the thing on here then? I remember seeing the consciousness. Oh yeah, you have 8 second lines in your body graph. So
Yeah.
we've just investigated. You have one first line. That means you're here to become a knower, and that first line was in this line of patience. Um, you have so that's why that's a focus because there's only one of them. All this
Mm.
thing you've been talking, you realize you've been keynoting the language of a hermit.
Um, not consciously aware of it,
Right.
but I have been becoming more
Well,
aware of all of
most of those
these.
truths are unconscious in you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just recently learned or recently noticed that I have 8-second lines, and it's the most lines that I have in my
Yep.
chart. And
What's
because
that
more and
harmonized
more
with?
I've been hermiting, and the more I do that, like, I'm social, but also, like, I love the knowledge,
Right.
and I love diving into it, and I love I've changed my business in such a way to where it supports that, and
The 3 and the 5 have a great need to simply stand on one's principles. The 5th
mm,
line will march out into the alley when needed, and the rest of the time it won't for its principles. The 3rd line will simply sustain at it. Sustain at the because the 3rd line's job is to principally decide about what the 1st line has done and then either tear it down or not. So the 1st line's build foundations and the 3rd line's the end of that, lower trigram. Their job is to tear it down or not.
okay.
That's the anarchist part. That's why its role in expression with the other is anarchy. Um, so what was the point I was making before? Shit. What was darn. Oops.
With
Um,
the hermit stuff, because you were
I think
saying that I was expressing a lot of hermit energy.
so. Check this out. So your profile, you have 5 or 6 threes, 6 threes. You have 6 5s. Looks like some. You have 8 2s.
Mhm.
Okay, so when you add all that, so almost all the gates are taken up with just those 3 gates, with those 3 lines. The 2 and the 5 resonate with each other. They harmonize with each other. I mean,
Mhm.
have you looked into much of the harmony and resonance of things?
It's been a minute.
Okay, well, just to harmonize is to be noticeable, so noticeable that it can't help but to feel good inside the body when it is doing its correct thing. What is the
I
one?
experienced that, but yes.
Most because most of this is unconscious. So the 2
Oh,
harmonizes with the 5. This unconscious side, that channeling, I know there's pressure from this universe of ours. I know there's a direct connection because we're in an illusion that we're even separate in the first place. I get all that.
yeah.
But here in this earthly form, while we're here, pulled apart through the agency of this monopole, that only attracts, right? Um, through the agency of that monopole that only attracts that pulling that happens with us pulls us into the channeling through the act, mostly first of the unconscious gates.
Okay.
It's just there. That's what it does. That is our divinity. So
Mm,
when in the past, much of that divinity truly did have to sort of come from something, and those people would be dumbstruck. No wonder they all thought that they were, you know, priests and prophets and all this stuff because it was that big a deal to them. Have you noticed? To us, it's great, but none of us are willing to claim prophet status over it because it seems like everybody can do certain stuff and gee, isn't this great?
yeah.
So we're different about all of that. We don't care about those things the same as they did in the old seven-centered way. That was all for power. The nine-centered version of us is for communion, period. That's our first thing that the nine-centered being will be at home with. And it's our red gates that get us into the channeling, that give us all these beautiful aha moments so that our personality can finally wake up and see, oh my God, there's someone else I'm traveling with. And
Right?
that's what it's seeing, right? And it's
Yeah.
scary. Excuse me. And
That's
it's scary when it sees that if it doesn't know what it is,
yeah.
Um, yeah, it was so funny what Moana was saying. She's like, "Oh my God, what was the thing?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's the beginning of when you start getting red, and then after a while, you start seeing, oh, that was this." So any of your red gates, and even this cross of the unexpected will bring channeling to you. The fact that the third lines bump into things, you're the channeler. You're the aspect of the Christ or God consciousness. You are the living embodiment here on this planet, as am I.
Yeah.
Um, Together, we become the power of now as we commune more and more. And so, all of this power in here for you to do that. I've also noticed you've learned to you seem to have learned that your timing to speak.
Yes.
Was
Very
that
much.
harder?
Um, it was at first in learning that I have like the open throat and you need to wait. It's like wait to speak. I had a lot of wounding around that. I did go through a tuning session where I got my throat tuned, and ever since then, it's been different for me in the most beautiful of ways.
Of
And
course.
my voice became stronger because the wounding behind what was happening was not being seen and heard, was
Yep.
not being, let's see, speaking, but not being heard.
Mm.
And with the tuning that happened, it got reset back to factory settings. And all of a sudden I could sing, and not like sing like I did before, but whenever I would sing before, there would be this like glass ceiling where I wouldn't allow myself to like go higher with the notes. And all of a sudden, I immediately, when I came out of my session, I got in my car, and on the radio, Miley Cyrus was on and she was singing
Bam.
her Wrecking Ball. And I
Yep.
started belting it.
Right. Of course.
And when she would hit the higher notes, I started hitting them with her, and
Right.
I bawled
You were
because
just loving that.
the ceiling was gone. And from that, I started noticing that when I talked, people started actually listening to me. And so
Because
the
you waited.
room Huh?
Because you waited.
Yeah. And so I didn't have to feel like I needed to chatter so much anymore because I knew that when I talked, I was being heard. So the wounding behind it was gone.
Have you noticed yet that we don't want any of that wounding? We don't even want to care. We
Yeah.
don't want to care one bit. Is that true? Have you? I mean, I'm speaking. Don't forget, I have a 43 too. So when I speak, it sounds like I know, but I'm still usually asking as well.
So caring as in what way are you referring to?
We don't
Not
wanna
wanting
have
to.
to give it so much second thought already. Who cares already? Yeah, it's there. Write it down. It's in the history books. I can look it up. Sometimes I'll remember it and have a bunch of feelings. In between all the rest of the 99% of the time, I don't wanna care.
Yeah, there's a lot of that where I'm like, oh,
Good.
and now it's gone and I don't have to. I've
Right.
had the experience with it. It was an incredible, profound experience, and now I can actually start to live what it means to live without having that holding me back anymore.
Right. Holding you back and all of this stuff and the weight and the pressure and all the confusion that never solves itself because it can't.
Right.
And with this life force in you, that's the kind of confusion that would drive all kinds of things into you. It's like, oh, honey, I think you need to go see a specialist or talk to a talk doctor or get into therapy. You might have even heard some of these things in your life. Um,
Absolutely, I have.
yep. Okay. See, so that all makes sense. So it's intense. I see this awakening of your heart as something that would have been easy. You have 8-second lines making you a 2-5 profile in just by sheer force of numbers
Mm,
as it relates to your design. That's the hermit general. And if you recall, I mean, the biggest keynote of the hermit, besides the hermit, is the natural that gets
Right.
called.
Yes.
There's a bunch of other ones, the Democrat, the bigot, the one that's harmony for this, the shy one till they're bold, but you have both. So there you are attracting a mate and then sort of running away from them a little bit. Has that happened in your life?
Um, well, I've been married twice, so and divorced twice. So, in a sense, I guess it does, but
Well, no,
uh,
I'm thinking about just courtship wise. Not sure if you're interested because there's the shy in
oh,
you that hasn't gotten over the hump. And so the shy pulls in. I'm talking the second line when the third line shouldn't be all that shy. It's more like a kamikaze. Hey, let's
oh,
hit this thing, maybe. Try it, try it. And
most
so,
most everyone I meet is a no, and then
right.
some and
Yeah.
I'm like, but yes, and if there's any kind of interest, there's very much a, um, like,
Patience to wait.
leaning in and then like, I don't know.
Yes. The Marco Polo of the 2-5 or the 5-2. The
Yeah.
2 is shy, it's a hermit, doesn't know, it's gotta wait for someone to break through, and the 5th line is the Casanova and the femme fatale and the pretty one, and the, attractiveness as a medium of creativity and all of that, and it's seductive and conditioning or the conditioned, and with all of these things, it's the 5th line is what everyone wants to see in everyone. Do you
Mhm.
remember Norman Schwarzkopf, the general of that first Gulf War? You
No.
would have been just old enough, but he was the general. He was the archetype of a fifth line. He stormed in, got it done in 100 hours, got out, went back to his farm. Everyone talked about him afterwards, and he was the archetype of such a thing,
Wow.
just in story form. And he did get it done, and everyone looked to him and they projected on him. So you're always getting projected upon. You might have all these talents. You might have all these talents. I realize I'm not speaking to your third line profile. I'm just speaking to the mass of twos in your chart compared to its harmony of the five.
Okay.
Because that's such a strong pull when they're in harmony to each other. It's like they're in a type of lockstep. That's very powerful. It's just like two gates come together. They become a quantum more
Mm,
than what they were. This is the same thing. You got a harmony together and they become more than just what they are separately because they're now working synergistically in a way that harmonizes. The general in you knows damn well when to come out. And the calling in you that the second lines receive a calling because they second lines resonate to hope. They just resonate to hope. Third lines resonate to a desire to make it all happen. So
okay.
you have this hope and desire that you're going to make it all happen, but it's really the general that attracts society and makes it all happen. You
Okay.
know, and the fifth line, so sometimes you're making it all happen, and even that would be a surprise to you. But still, the 2-5 on your left hand side that's there so much, that hermit has a very special quality. You're not a 2-4 profile, so it won't necessarily hit home like it does with me. But it's this fact that something comes, and like the innocence of a child, you are called because you had the hope. You're always called into where your hopes are.
Okay.
One energy attracts the other, and you have tons of hope. I hope this. I got hope. Oh, no worry. I hope that, it leads to a bunch of optimism when technically you should have pessimism. But you have your share of it. You have your share of it. Not gonna
I have
turn
my
it.
share, but it's mostly optimistic, and then sometimes, like, I know better than to
Right,
be optimistic about that particular thing, and so sometimes it'll come out, and I'm like, "Oops."
right. Well, listen. Think of the times you've marshaled headlong into whatever the thing is, with nothing but hope.
Yeah.
Not stupidity. It's not like, hey, I'm going to marshal until
No.
I can breathe underwater now. No,
No, it's very interesting because 'cause I'll go through and I'll do things that are, um nonsensical in a way, but there's because it's riding on that hope, but there's also this logic that comes in of like, look, I realize that this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but we're gonna try this anyways."
we're gonna try this anyways, and it might do this, this, and this. Maybe I don't know. Consciousness will figure it out. I'm working on it. The
Yeah,
law is about to get laid. I'm working on it. Yeah, all of these things. Rulership must happen. We're working on it. I must explain. I'm reading off these crosses, as we go through 'em.
Okay.
The unexpected shall happen because I will bump into it. Because even though my gates are in open centers, when I care, I must care deeply, and I can't stop caring deeply. And so
Right.
ultimately, that third line bumped into the right moment, and the right moment said, "It's time for my heart to open." And the warrior shocked into existence the very thing that the warrior always does, gate 51. It shocks the movement into innocence, gate 25. 51 and 25 are the very first allspark of a seed and an egg in a human gestation. Um,
Mm.
that's a thing. Um, and so all of that ends up taking place, and then in the moment, the unconscious realization hits you like a ton of bricks, and suddenly you can explain it. And the channel of explanation that isn't there is acting like it is. And
Hmm.
your heart beat 3 sizes that day. It was guaranteed to notice it. Um, you're guaranteed to notice it. And really, I would just end on this. Well, 2 things. This unexpected is for real. The things you desire lead you into an unexpected place of influence.
Yes.
Oops, oopsie. That's you, just oopsie. So your husband has had to live with oopsie, and not only oopsie, but sometimes even though you don't have gate 46, it's a type of dumb luck. Oh my God, it worked out. You know? Like I told you, you just need to scratch the ticket. The mortgage payment's there, Not saying you do that, but that kind of thing, unexpected, you know?
Yeah.
By the way, we never wanna be scratching a ticket hoping for our mortgage payment to be there.
Yeah. I
Um,
get it.
yeah.
Like,
So take all this shocking stuff, and the warrior wants to feel deeply too. Don't forget, it's melancholy of the warrior. Is there anything new under the sun? Give it to me. I'm due it. The warrior
mm,
spirit has a possessive spirit. I'm due it. It does come from the ego, after all. Even though it's individual, it's possessive. It's got its ego possession going on, and I'm due it. I hope it gets here. I know that'll get here because I just have hope. You know what I mean? And whatever I'm pessimistic at, my brain will figure out because I'm constantly thinking, oh my God, I realize. And then whatever that tuning fork moment was, I already forget it now. You woke up to
yeah.
your open heart and recognized what human design tells us we have to recognize. You love yourself. You follow your strategy and authority, be yourself, and everything else falls into line. And now you're filled with the great power of it to the tune of goosebumps all the time when you think about it. So
Yeah.
is that true, by the way? Goosebumps?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, figured. So you put all this together, and no wonder you're doing exactly whatever it is that you're doing. I'm just glad you ran into that thing
Me
and
too.
that heart opening moment because that was huge. And I'm
Yeah.
glad you're reading for people. And is there anything you want to ask me? Because I really just wanted to get to that. I wanted to get to this 47. I'm looking at your chart and I'm like, oh, there is stuff I can show her. We need to see this,
That was
So
beautiful. You showed me so much.
I lost track of what I showed you, but I'm glad. Make
That's
sure you
okay.
watch it over again.
And just um the channeling and being able to see the channeling and the heart opening and all of the stuff that like I'm was destined to find all of it
Indeed.
was is very reassuring and very comforting and
You're
because there's
natural at it.
sometimes where I'm like, I know this sounds crazy, but I am not crazy, you know?
That's the
Like,
knower. That's the knower. And the second lines on your side, they get called into that thing. That's the channeling. And the whole seven-centered version of giving all of our power away. Not that it's a bad thing, but giving it away to God as a practical mechanic. It's like, oh, that's just true to what we really are now. No, we're an aspect of that. We don't have to give it away to us. We're channeling it right here. I got the
exactly,
instrument right here. In fact, I
exactly.
got 9 instruments according to you because you figured that out. You know what I mean? And more. Let's give each channel an instrument, each gate, and each color, you know what I mean? They all get one.
Yeah.
We'll run out soon, but we'll make them up, but you know what I'm saying, right? So,
They all have a different tone to them.
yeah, they do. They all do. I love that recognition of sound as well. I just remembered you had mentioned that before. By the way, bass talks to tone.
Oh, bass
Tone
talks to tone.
yeah,
Okay.
bass does talk to tone. Tone talks to color. Color becomes the go-between, obviously, but we can't the correctness of what you were saying. You were totally correct because we just don't have access to what bass is doing. And you have no proof that you've got the right bass until you've lived at it for so long that you just figure by default that's probably the one. Because there's no way you could have that accurate a time, probably, you know. Um, but tone and color are easy to get to once you look at them enough, you know,
Mm,
and so forth. But that all that stuff there is amazing. But I forgot what I was saying before.
that's
I
okay.
gotta stop. Can I stop talking? You talk.
Okay.
I'm done. I've used
Well,
up my
I was
words.
gonna say, yeah, Danny, you can take it easy.
You
You
see that? It's starting to happen. I'm like, I'm such, what do I say?
I'm like, I got you, I got you. This is
Like,
why there's a three of us, so we can do
thank
this.
you, Moana.
oh, well, Danny,
Go ahead.
what you were saying about my with the throat and what I've learned of being the listener is I get sucked into being the listener and being patient with that because there will come the pieces of, oh, that's
The
that's the
thing.
wound or that's the thing. And
Yep.
it'll come through. And so um there's almost a pressure to not speak now
Right.
inside of me, um,
Wow. I can
instead
see
of
that.
to speak,
Right.
which is
That'll balance itself out. I can totally see that, though. I can totally. I mean, we never even got to the open centers. They're always going to pull a head trip on us. We can never forget those open centers are screaming those not self voices even when we wake up because they've been doing it for so long. You know, so it's all
yeah.
good. It's just a little. It's like
I was
the
gonna say,
road in the background.
Danny, you like smashed that reading out of
Was
the
it
park.
good?
Right? It
I
was
was
amazing.
like, Natalie is like, if her jaw's not on the floor, like I would be confused. Like I was like,
You know what? I need to breathe a little bit more and give people
what?
a moment to
That was
reflect. They're like
like
saying something.
I was like the kids say that was fire.
Yeah.
Yes. That reading was I don't know if you felt the same, Natalie. It's not even my chart. And I was like, yes, Danny,
Yeah.
keep doing that.
Got all these wicked interesting things in your chart, Natalie. It's just so
Thank
cool.
you.
It was
Cool.
so good. Anyhow, wow, that was such a treat. I'm just like,
It was.
you're a complete like nerd coming to life with HD when you're like getting off on other people's readings. You're just like, yes, so good. Tell me more. That's how I found Danny, by the way. He was doing a reading for my one of my guilty pleasures is celebrity gossip. It was Meghan and Harry.
Oh.
And I was like, "Where's the popcorn? This is so juicy." Yeah. And he corroborated things that
Ooh.
was in Harry's memoir because he did the reading well before the memoir ever came out. And then I
Really?
listened to the memoir and I was like,
He knew
how
it the
did
whole
he know
time.
this? No, it was several things. It wasn't even like one thing. It was like several things. And I'm like, what? Okay. So now we have a show together because I'm like, no, no, no. It's
Amazing.
ridiculous that you're not more known. Like, we need to fix that. People need to know you. So here we are. This is why you're on our show.
Thank you.
Oh, so I'm glad that you had fun doing the thing. Literally me, yeah. See, Chris, you know. So I was gonna say this is just such a treat. Each week, I'm like, you never know, right? What kind of guest is gonna come on, like what kind of energy they're gonna give you, and like how the rapport is gonna be. But with you, I can say, Natalie, that was like an absolute delight. Like I was
Thank you.
having fun the entirety of you being on the show. I don't know if you felt the same, but I felt that and I was like, this is
Yes.
so nice. So I am throwing all of Natalie's stuff. What is having? I'm like putting too much in. Into the chat. So please everyone go check it out. Natalie is going to tune you up. If you need a slogan, that could be your slogan.
Yes. I my slogan with that is living the tuned up life.
See? Oh my god. It's like I somehow caught that it had something to do with that. So yes,
Mhm.
very excited to one day do a tuning thing with you and seeing what kind of magical things happen. Oh my gosh.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, so thank you. Again, it was an honor to have you on the
Oh,
show.
it was an
It was
honor
an
to be here.
Thank you. It was just like an absolute magical episode. I say this every week, but no, like seriously, this was magical. I loved it. So thank you again. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in live. Thank you, replay watchers. And again, if you are like, this is amazing stuff, go share it with your friends. Go share it with your friends. Tell them to come watch. Give us a follow. If you're really like, this is life changing stuff, go subscribe to our coffee page and support the channel. And yes, we will be back next week with another amazing special guest. So until then, we're going to bid you all adieu. Natalie, any closing words?
Ooh, thank you for having me. This has been such a delight for me as well. So I hope that everyone feels nice and grounded now and, you know, and have a great evening.
Amazing. So take care, everyone. Until we see you all next week. Adieu, adieu, adieu. Bye bye.
Bye.